everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back with a brand new speed build, this time doing a rather large suburban family home. So this is Lakeland Drive. It's a 5-bed, 5-bathroom build set on a 40 by 40 lot in Brindleton Bay, and it comes in at just less than 352,000 simoleons. So this wasn't a restricted pack build and it wasn't built to a budget, it was just literally a free-for-all. I just wanted to build a really nice big suburban home. I think after doing a couple of starter homes, and especially the starter home with an 18k budget at the start of the week, I was kind of itching just to kind of do something nice and big, and this is where I feel the most comfortable building kind of big, beautiful homes, trying to be as creative as I possibly can be. So initially I started off on this 64 by 64 lot, and after building for a certain amount of time, I decided that I didn't really want to do a 64 by 64 lot. I wanted to kind of do a nice big home, but I wanted to do it over on the 40 by 40 lot. So I did move it around about now, and I was just literally kind of playing around with the shape at this point. But I actually feel like it's been ages since I've built in Brindleton Bay, and the reason why I build here so much is literally because the lighting is so good on these particular lots. It's just really, really bright in the daytime, and I really like to have really good lighting when I'm building, so I do really love building on these particular lots. My favourites back in the day used to be in Willow Creek. When I say back in the day, I mean before seasons, but it feels like back in the day. The ones in Willow Creek, the ones at the very top left hand side, were my absolute favourite lots because I prefer those over any of them, or the 50 by 50 lot in Willow Creek, because the scenery is just so beautiful and it's just full of lots of trees, and I really love landscaping and trees and things like that. So yeah, they were my absolute favourites, but after the release of Seasons, the lighting in those particular lots was just very, very dull for some reason, and I don't actually know if it's been fixed. I've literally not even attempted to try and build on those lots in a really long time, so I don't know whether that's been fixed in a patch, but I'll be sure to check it out maybe this evening and possibly message one of the gurus to say, can you take a look at these lots please? So I didn't really know what I was going to build on this particular lot. I just wanted to build something really nice in quite a nice shape, and I just sort of went with it, but I didn't really know what particular style I wanted to build either, whether I was going to do something Georgian or something Tudor, and I just kind of played around with the colours. As you can see, before it was kind of like a lighter brick and now it's going darker, and I'm just literally playing around with the colours, trying to decide what on earth I'm going to do. Now, I did at one point use the Seasons windows as well, but I thought, no, I'm not using those windows because I love those windows and I use them a lot. And I know a lot of builders do just because they're so versatile, but sometimes I have to kind of like push myself to use some of the older styles of windows just to kind of change it up a little bit so that every build's not looking completely the same. But it's actually been a really long time since I've used these sort of long Georgian style windows, and I think it's quite nice actually to sort of push yourself out of your comfort zone sometimes. And I think when you get a little bit stuck, for instance, with inspiration and things like that, sometimes it's good to kind of play around with different style windows or colours and shapes just to see what else you can come up with, because I think a lot of us tend to gravitate towards favourite items and colours and things like that, which is perfectly okay, but sometimes it's just nice to sort of change it up a little bit. So we're moving on now to the placement of the trees, which is kind of like my stage 2 after building the house, and just sort of laying a few trees around the outside and kind of trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the landscaping. And the landscaping is quite simple. Like I say, I did actually move it from the 64 by 64 lot, so it wasn't a massive space to work with, but that was really good for me because that's exactly how I wanted it to be. So it's quite simple at the front really, there's not a lot going on. I did use these little kind of packaged stone things. I don't even know what they are because they actually don't have a name, but they're in the debug menu to sort of kind of line the border of the flower beds. And I really like this technique, but it's very, very time consuming, and even on a speed build, it's very time consuming. So I thought, to save you from watching me place every single one, I will just kind of skip forward and just carry on doing a little bit of the flower beds. So a lot of the time when I'm building a house, unless I think that there's potentially going to be an issue with the roofing and we're going to get some sort of cutting in issue, I don't tend to really look at the inside of the house until probably I'd say as I've finished it and around about the time I'm going to place the windows. And I literally dropped the walls on this house and was like, wow, this is gonna take me forever to furnish it. It was absolutely huge on the inside, and this always really baffles me, and it feels like some kind of optical illusion because sometimes, and I've said this so many times, I will build a house and I'll think, wow, this one's like really big, and then I'll drop the walls down and be like, okay, it's actually really small. But this one was the opposite, and I was like, wow, this is gonna take me a while. Now, I don't ever sort of pre-record my video. I very rarely work on several projects at the same time. I just kind of work build to build. So at the beginning of the week, a few of you were like, wow, you're uploading quite a lot, Kim. And I was like, well, yeah, because starter homes are really quick to do, but builds like this take time. So this one actually took me over, I think it was 8 hours and 20 minutes in total to finish, from start to finish, which is quite a long time, really. So it did actually take me quite a bit of time to put this one together, and I think I worked on it over 3 days. But in all honesty, I like working on builds over a couple of days at least 2 days, because I always find that if I go to sleep and I wake up, I always look at a build and I can spot straight away the things that I don't like or the things that I feel need changing a lot better than when I've sat and built something for like 6 hours and I look at it and I think, does it look right? So it's kind of like waking up with a fresh sort of clean mind and then just being able to sort of look at a build properly and think, am I missing anything? Which I always think is a good idea, because there are a few things in a build that builders can frequently forget to add in, and they're like quite important things. So a couple of those items are things like the outdoor bin, the indoor bin, the fridge, the mailbox. There are a few things that for some reason all of us at some point in time always forget to add in. Now, if I forget to place the fridge in a build, and I've done it a couple of times in speed builds, the amount of comments I get saying, where's the fridge? And I'm like, it's back in the menu. It's just like, you do forget things, and you know what, it's really not the end of the world, but you would think it if you read some of these comments. So I do think it's important to kind of go to sleep and then wake up and just really look at a build, but everybody works different, and that's just what works for me. So with this particular build, I did go ahead and add in plenty of activities and skill building items. Obviously, I always do it for these kind of huge homes with just ridiculous budgets. So this actually has planters in it with a beekeeping box in the middle. We have a big pool area as well as a barbecue area and some swings over to the right. There are there's a couple of balconies in this house as well, which have all got seating areas and various sort of activities and skill building items. I know on the balcony on the side of the house, we've got kind of a chess table and a couple of easels as well. So there's just absolutely loads to do in this house. So I hope you've all had a fantastic week. I know for some of you over in the UK, you may be on school holidays now, so I hope you've had some good downtime. I know mine have all been off this week, and it's been quite eventful. So a couple of days ago, I think I mentioned in my last video that I was possibly looking at getting a royal python snake, and on Wednesday, me and the kids decided to go on a little road trip to, it was like the neighbouring town. They have like this really large reptile centre, and I kind of went with an open mind. Sort of decided to go and take the kids, and we'd have a little look round and have a look at all the exciting animals, and it was a lot of fun actually, and it's the closest I have ever been to a whopping spider. I must say though, tarantulas, to be fair, because they're so big and furry, they just for some reason seem kind of a lot less intimidating than like the big house spiders that we get in the UK. And I know they're nowhere near as big as a lot of other countries countries, but for us, well, you know, a spider's a spider. So we had a good look around this reptile shop, and they did indeed have a good stock of royal pythons, which over in America is the ball python, but they also had some corn snakes, and they had a particular corn snake it's called a snow morph. So the snake looks kind of like pink and white, and they were tiny little baby hatchlings. So after a little bit of a talk and a little bit of a chat with the kids, we decided to go ahead and purchase a little snow corn snake hatchling. So my daughters decided to name her Rose, which I felt was a really pretty name actually for a snake. I wanted to call it something completely different and wacky, but she was like, no, you know, I like Rose. So we went with Rose. But the funny thing about it was we got her home, and I've done a lot of research over the last couple of weeks just to make sure that, you know, we'd bought the right setup, temperatures, you know, I knew everything that I needed to know. You know, and it was quite a big decision to make, really, because these snakes grow really quite big, A, and B, you know, they last for years and years and years. So I made sure I did all my research, and, you know, we bought the snake, we bought everything to go with it, 6 months worth of food, and we arrived back home, and I was just so excited. Anyway, this little tiny snake, this little noodle, was in this little plastic box, and we were all really excited, and we were kind of looking at it through the, you know, through the little plastic box. And what we did was we set up the kind of tank and everything, you know, laid everything out. We set up the heat mat and put in some water and just everything that it needed. And then it was time to kind of move her from her little box into her new home. So I was kind of thinking, well, I've never held a snake before. Now, and you know, I know it wasn't rocket science, but I was kind of thinking, I just don't know really how to go about it. So I took the lid off, and, you know, my eldest son and my daughter were kind of like stood around me, and they were like looking at this snake, and the snake's like peering up at me. And just as I'm sort of thinking, I know that I can't be nervous about this process because that can make them nervous. So I was thinking, I've got to be a bit confident with it. As I'm going through this entire thought process, this little snake just jumps out of the box into my arms. I was like, oh my God. So I took hold of this snake really quickly, and then I was just, because they're really quite fast corn snakes as well, and especially as hatchlings, they're quite kind of skittish. So I was like, oh, you know, really, really frightened of sort of dropping her, and, you know, I was handling her, but she was really, really sweet, really good. We didn't have any hissing. She didn't try and bite me or anything like that, but it was just, I am so, so glad that she did what she did. And my kids were just laughing their heads off because my reaction was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? But I actually found it to be like the best icebreaker ever, because I'm pretty sure I probably would have stood in the kitchen for a good while trying to think about the best ways to sort of move the snake, because obviously you don't want to scare it, and it's just a frightening time for them as well. So yeah, anyway, needless to say, we had a little bit of a hold, and then we managed to transfer her to her little setup, and she's been snug as a bug in a rug ever since. So yeah, I have to say that was quite eventful. So that's pretty much what we've been obsessed with for the last few days. But just coming back to the build, we are actually on the upstairs already. I've kind of waffled my way through the downstairs. But downstairs has 2 reception rooms. It has a kitchen with a utility room, a dining room, a gym, an activities room, 2 bathrooms, a garage, and a study. So there was a couple of rooms that I left out of this particular build just because it was so big, and that was mainly the bathrooms, which I'm pretty sure you can see when I do certain rooms. They're just, you know, very straightforward, but I left the bathrooms out. And there was an activities room, which it was kind of activities stroke skill building room, and it had a little piano in there, and I think it was a chess table, and it was just kind of a very sort of nondescript room, really. So I have included some screenshots at the very end, and obviously if you do go ahead and download this house, you'll be able to see everything in its full detail. But upstairs we've got 5 bedrooms, and I think it's 3 bathrooms are upstairs. Now, the bedrooms were all a really good size. They were really quite big, each and every one of them. There wasn't really like one really big master room and several smaller ones. They were all a really good size. So I went ahead and decided to do a master bedroom. We also had kind of like a double, it's the one that I'm working on at the moment. It was kind of like a male type room, like maybe a teen boy or a young adult, teen boy stroke adult, I don't know, but we've got kind of like this male-ish type room. And then there was another double room as well, which was maybe for a teen girl stroke young adult, and then we had a twin boys room and a twin girls room. Now, I didn't actually put any beds in for toddlers or babies or anything like that. I just kept them as twin rooms because ultimately if you wanted to add space in for a toddler, it's just very easy to do that. But I did go ahead and personalize the rooms, and I really went quite bright with the girls room. There was this really bright wallpaper, and ordinarily when I do sort of the builds and the interiors, I do use a lot of neutral kind of tones, but I think I said this in the last video, when it comes to doing the kids rooms, I really like to go all out and add that kind of brightness and colour in. So this was a very bright pink girly type room. But the good thing about the rooms being as big as they were was that I was able to add in lots of activities and skill building items, lots of toys, and just really kind of fill out the bedrooms. So there was just loads and loads of stuff to do. I also added in this little hamster's cage, and it's definitely a hamster. I know when I've placed this sort of enclosure a few times in the rooms, I've never really known which one it is. I just sort of grab it out of the menu, but I made sure to check this time, and it's definitely a hamster. But I did actually really enjoy building this particular build, and we are actually edging very close now to the update, which will bring all the terrain tools, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck into some builds. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got a couple of ideas of the things that I'd like to do. Someone did pop down in the comments section as well in the last video that they potentially overheard some of the gurus mentioning in a live stream that they would be fixing some of the roof glitches, which if that's the case, I would be so happy, because there's so many particular styles of house that I'd love to do, but we just can't do it because if you do build a roof in a certain way, it will just cut straight in. So I'll be really excited to see if there is sort of truth in that, because, you know, it would be amazing. But I'm just currently working on the twin boys room, and I decided to use the kind of same wallpaper pattern that I used for the girls room, but in obviously the bluish tone. And I didn't want them to mirror one another with the room, so I did lay them out differently, but they are twin rooms nevertheless. But yeah, again, it was a really good size room, so I was able to fit lots and lots of different stuff in. And this is actually the last bedroom, which I would say you could even go ahead and use this as a master bedroom. It's entirely up to you, but I quite like the tones in this room. They were really sort of muted, and I felt that the wallpapers and everything went really well with that bed. I don't really use that bed very often. Sometimes I find that there are items that I really love in the game, but the swatches of them just aren't to my taste. But I did finally find this particular swatch for this bed, and I really liked it. So I created this sort of teen girls room. It could even be a guest room. It's entirely up to you. But yeah, that's the build in a nutshell. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've managed to get this far and listen to all of my waffling throughout, and I appreciate it wholeheartedly if you have. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, it would be amazing to have you on board. But I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, bye!